Mustang. I'm president. I've been president for, this is my 5th year. Been doing this for 38 years, working on the book cliffs and helping with the wild horses up on the little book cliffs. And this is the map of the area.
And I'm George Brauneis, Vice President of Friends of the Mustangs, and I haven't had the privilege to spend as much time on the range, but I've had the opportunity of training multiple Little Book Cliff horses, and I absolutely adore them on the range or off the range. So.
And George is going to take over for me next month. I'm going to retire from president, but I'll still be working on the range.
Her new title is the Range Czar. Not Ranger, but Range Czar.
But anyway, this is our range. This is the book cliffs. Down here is Grand Junction. It's cut by huge canyons. Cold Canyon. Main Canyon is our northern boundary, and it goes all the way up to almost 21 Road. And we've got multiple springs all over that we've tapped into to run into tanks. And we got a lot of fences. We got a lot of gap fences to maintain. It just takes a lot of work. But anyway, that's why I'm the range czar.
Yeah. But the bonus of working up on the range is always see the horses, and that's always fun. And sometimes it's like, oh, pony, I'll be back to work in a little. George, get back here.
Yeah, George, we'll meet you up here when you're done with the horses. So.
And the horses are fun. Some of them are too friendly.
Yeah.
You literally have to back away from them because they want to come up so close to you. And we don't want to encourage the horses getting so close that, you know, they could spook and hurt somebody.
Yeah.
So we want to keep, 50-foot distance or maybe a little more. But every time I see Traveler, he just comes walking up towards me like, hey, George. I'm like, stay back. So that's there. Other than around Monument Rock, most of the herd pretty friendly towards people. And that's a help when they come off the range and end up here at an adoption event like we have going on now. Most of them gentle down pretty quick. They are used to people. For some reason, they really seem to like people.
Yeah.
So this adoption success with the Little Book Cliff horses is pretty high. You don't get a whole lot of horses being returned.
So how many horses are currently up there?
Well, we probably have, 120 left. We were up over 200 last fall when they gathered, and they took 100 off. One they had to put down. They had to put down 3, but one of them that was a come-off got put down. And anyway, yeah, they took them over to Canyon City. We have quite a few older ones that didn't come that I think are going to Sanctuary.
They got a pack, right?
I don't know. I haven't heard that. But anyway, I'm getting a 17-year-old. His name's Adobe. He's supposed to be coming from Canyon City. We'll see how that goes. Some people think I'm nuts. Some people think I live dangerously. But it'll be an adventure. It's always an adventure. I've adopted several, and my oldest one, I broke him at 14. He was wild 10 years. But let me tell you, riding him up in the mountains, it's like a dream to me, because he can just go anywhere. And he's willing. He's like, let's go. But, I even turned him loose up there a few times, and he just goes and has a good time and then comes back because he's in love with the mare that I ride, or used to. But it's quite the adventure. We're with Friends of the Mustang, which we're the ones that take care of this, and we have for several years now. And it's not easy. We have a really really nice campground, if you ever wanna go up there. We have a campground, it has lots of picnic tables, a bathroom. We have a cabin over in North Soda, and you can camp there too, and it has a bathroom. And
My experience, I've had more luck seeing horses in North Soda than in any other section of the range.
I saw a Scott over here the other day. He's looking good. But there was an area, a lot of area in North Soda that we roller chopped and then they seeded. And some of this is like a pasture.
That's a big pasture.
But we got some money from the state, the working group that I was just in, and George was my alternate. And they gave us quite a bit of money for, I've hired the Western Colorado Conservation Corps, 3 times on their money. And let's see what else. Oh, we've paid for our darters. And there's 6 ponds that they're supposed to give me an estimate on digging them out. There's 2 over here in North Soda, and then there's several over here on Round Mountain that we'll use state money for. And then we want to do some seeding, but I'm not sure where they're seeding. I wanted to seed some berms out here at Monument Rock, but that hasn't been finalized yet. But the ponds we can get dug out because they're existing. One thing about BLM, you got to have a NEPA on everything if it's not existing. So we try to work on existing things. But most of our water up here is springs. We have very little running water. If we get some rains, Main Canyon will flow. And some of these might flow. But it's springs that maintain the water for our horses.
We've got one catchment on the range and one that's just off the range. The big water catchments.
Well, we've got Brumby land that we just acquired, and it's a really nice water catchment. It's got 2 tanks, and I need to adjust the float on the second one because the water's running out on the ground. But yeah, that's the only really water catchment we have that's on the range. Yeah, on Brumby. Brumby land, we changed the boundaries because it was maintaining a lot of fence, and it was old lodgepole fence that was falling down and some wire fence that was a mess. So we changed the boundary to Main Canyon, which meant I only had to put in 2 gap fences. And that's all I have to maintain. And that one's half a mile away, and the other one's right next to the road. And then we put in a cattle guard right there and took out the cattle guard that was up here.
And that added about 2,500 acres.
I'm not real
Roughly.
sure, but it's a nice
It's a
chunk.
nice addition to the range. And one of the other benefits wasn't initially 40 years ago, but over time, either ranchers had relinquished their grazing rights.
Yeah, that was Round Mountain. Our boundary used to come to Cosgrove and then like right across. And Gerald, our BLM guy, he traded some off-range water projects for the grazing rights for Round Mountain. So we acquired that. And then it's the same rancher that has given us the grazing rights for, they call it Lane Gulch, we call it Brumby land because we have a horse there, we call it Brumby. And he was the first one to call that area home.
And so there are no sheep or cattle grazing on the Little Wood Cliffs. It's just the horses and wildlife.
Yep.
We got deer, elk, are the 2 big ones. Mountain sheep, got some mountain sheep up there. The one time I did not see a wild horse on the local cliffs, I saw 30 mountain sheep. Or mountain goats.
Yeah.
No, mountain sheep. Bighorn mountain sheep, so it was still a win. It's kind of cool seeing bighorns.
We've got a lot of bears.
Mountain
and
lions.
A lot of mountain lions right now are getting our foals. But,
My theory on the COVID year 2020, we had the Pine Gulch fire. That for a few weeks was the largest fire in the history of Colorado, and then that one up in Estes Park just like knocked Pine Gulch down. But so there's a lot of that was prime grazing for elk and deer, and that's all burned. Huh?
No wolves up there?
No wolves. I mean, there's
Well,
supposedly one wolf passed.
yeah,
through.
there was one that came through, and then I think they said he went through Grand Junction and went south, but that's all we've ever heard of.
Yeah, but as the range land got burned up in that Pine Gulch fire, the deer and the elk came into those wood cliffs, and the mountain lions followed. And now we've lost 6,
Yeah, I think
8
6.
foals to mountain lions this year. There's some big cat. I mean, I looked down at that. I was like, ooh, that kitty's bigger than I am.
Not many people hunting them anymore?
I don't think that they're made. I don't even know how many licenses are out there. And then did that law pass or not? I never paid. It got voted down because they were going to outlaw hunting of cats in Colorado. So that got voted down, which is good. But yeah, so we have been losing foals to mountain lions over the past couple, 3 years.
So are you accessing this area through to the canyon and not turn off?
There's one, you can come from Cameo, and that's the lower part, but once this gets hot and the water goes away, they move up. But this Coal Canyon comes, it goes towards Junction, and then it is the back of the Book Cliffs, and it goes actually clear to Carpenter. And then you drive in from the back, and we have 2 entrances. This we call the Indian Park Triangle, and then this is the North Soda Triangle. But you come from the back, and then you can drive between each end and then go in. But we went working on Cottonwood Tank the other day, so it takes you like an hour and a half to get to camp. And then we got the UTV out, and it took us another hour or so to get clear over here to Monument, and then we had to go clear out a ridge and then hike down. So it took us 13 hours to just replace some boards on a tank. So it takes a long time to work on this stuff, but I've got about 20 tanks, 20 locations. I've got multiple tanks. Like at my tank, there's 3 tanks. So, the lost Judy. I haven't found it yet. No, my BLM guy, yeah. He's like, your name's on the map. I said, what do you mean my name's on the map? He named it after. But when we got Round Mountain, there was four improved springs. The actual Round Mountain one is dry. Mine is doing real well, and then we've got another one, is Buffalo Wallow. And there's 3 tanks there also. They put in old metal tanks, and they kept rusted. And so we went and used Rubbermaid, and they all cracked at the same spot. So, it wasn't last fall, it was the fall before. I helicoptered in 9 tanks at different locations, and we've been working on getting those put in. So,
They're not Rubbermaid.
no, they're that rubber, actual
Yeah.
rubber. Kind of
It's
like the ones
flexible.
they've got out
Yeah.
there, that they are flexible. Cause the Rubbermaid are hard, and yeah, they would break in the same spot.
So you got a 1,000-pound horse pushing on it, or 800-pound bear using the tank as a bathtub.
Yeah, or freezing. They
Yeah,
freeze.
they freeze and then they really crack.
So we have quite a job every year to check these, check all the gap fences, check all the tanks. But the gals that do the darting of the mares, they hike a bunch. And what's nice is that they'll check all my tanks and then they send me pictures, and I just have to look at the pictures and know what I need to do. I just need to get there.
And a lot of the tank, I don't know if it's every tank, but quite a few of the tanks have a game cam
Yeah.
on it. So you can know which horses are drinking out of which tank, and then you're like, that is a really big mountain lion. That bear's bigger than the tank, you know? So we kind of have a rough guess of where the mountain lions and bears are on what game cams they show up on. So
are
that-
many of the horses still named a lot?
Every
We
horse is
name
named.
all of them. We used to not. We used to just name the studs, and then we'd say like Barons, Bay Mirror. But when we started doing the PZP, the birth control, they needed record. So the way we recorded it was to give them a name. So now every foal, they bring a picture up to the meetings, and we name all the foals. So, but that, I don't know them all. In fact,
Use
I don't.
drones at all, look at any of this?
Say what?
Use drones to see this?
No, we haven't. I've flown it several times in a helicopter, but I think that would be fun. I love Google Earth. Oh man, I'm addicted to it, gosh. But I think it would be fun to go up to a certain spot and then check drones, because yeah, some of these I don't like always hiking down to them. It would be nice just to fly something down there to check it out.
Right.
But, so we can use our own drones, but the BLM's not allowed to, there's some rules there, but they told us we were fine if we wanted to start using drones. Me, I prefer a helicopter. I had a huge fence project, it was about 2019, somebody said, what do you need money for? I said, I have really bad fences. And so they got me some money and I hired a helicopter, but I had to go to all these spots and count and see how many lodge poles, how many poles. I've got a new way of doing gaps, it's PZP, it's electrical PZP, and it hangs, so when things flood, they swing. And so I put in 7 of them so far. But that time I was putting in 1, 2, 3. And so I had hired this helicopter. I had all my bundles all put together. We had a flatbed. We took them up there, and the guy's like, well, you got to show me. And I'm like, okay. And I told him I had flown in helicopters before. And, oh my. We went to one, and and then one of them we had trouble finding, and I'm like, oh. And I said, there's one more down. And I said, maybe you can do that on your own. And he goes, nope, you're going with me. So we flew down to that one, and he said, I thought you said you'd flown before. And I'm like, nothing like you just did. Because one year we were gathering, and in fact that would have been about 2018, 19, the last gather. And we, for 35 years, we've used one helicopter guide. And all our gathers were done with BLM people and FOM. There was no gather crews. So we had Alan was our helicopter guy. And oh, he was so good to our horses. But anyway, the last year he was there, I went up and they said I could fly with him. And you know, I was like, oh, great. must have taken care of me, because it was nice. You know, we flew around, and we got near the edge one time, and we saw some horses, and he said, I think they went back, and I thought they'd went off the front. But I didn't want to go off the front, because when you fly out there, it goes like that.
Straight down through.
And my stomach would have went with it. So I'm like, no, I bet they did go back. So anyway, we flew around, we flew out. I showed him a spot where a tank was that didn't know where it was, and just showed him a lot of stuff, but he took care of me. So when this guy did that, but he's getting paid. Alan was getting paid too, but it wasn't so dire. But it was fun. It was fun. So, but yeah, it's kind of nice to fly. It looks so different though when you're up there. You know. So, but yeah, I've been traveling this. Used to ride it all the time. Yeah, you know, you put 1,000 mile on a horse and it's a good horse. I mean, and they were Mustangs. Oh my gosh, we could go anywhere. And I'd get us in trouble and they'd get us out. Good thing they got me out. But, you know, I like riding Mustangs, let me tell you, because you ride them that much, they just seem to know. And they always seem to know when I was in trouble. Like, okay, I'll get you out of here. Bill had to carry my dog out one time, big old black lab. And it's like, oh my. But Bill would stand next to something and he'd just stand there. And the gal had an English saddle on him. So I had him next to a ditch thing. I got Gus on him. And then I jumped on the back, and it took all I had to hold him on. So it's like, Bill, you got to take us back to the trailers. And he did. And I'm just trying to hold Gus on. And yeah, it's like they seem to know, to me, they seem to know when you need them. And there was another thing that I can talk about wild horses forever. But John Lyons would say that there's 3 colors of horses: evergreen, true blue, and solid gold. And Bill turned solid gold when he hauled that dog out, and me. And then there was another time that we were in some mud and we were slipping, and it's like, Bill, you gotta get me out of here. And I sent him up, I grabbed his tail, and I fought off that stupid horse behind me. And he pulled us up till we got out, because he was scrambling. He was scrambling in that mud, and it's just like, they're just willing. And then Judy hauled me out one time when it was, flooding, rain, thunderclouds just burst. And I had a truck and horse trailer, and I didn't want it to go through the 2 foot of water, so Gerald was going to come in and get me, and I said, no, I'm right out. And Beauty did that little draft horse trot, 10 miles, took me out. And they just seem to know when you need them. And then they're like, oh, okay, it's been fun so far, but But yeah, I get us into trouble, they get me out of trouble. That's my wild horses. But yeah, once I started riding that little black mare, I was hooked. I was totally hooked. It's like, we can go anywhere. And we did. That's why they had the t-shirts that said, I rode with Judy and survived. Mine said, I wanted mine to say, I'm Judy, no whining. But, no, I had a lot of fun with those horses. I just don't ride as much now, but I do have a good horse that I'm going to start riding. She's tall, so she has to. I stand on something and I just go, okay, and here comes that butt. Okay, I can get on that. But Barron was my favorite stallion, and he was over here on the one side of Lane Canyon, and I wanted one of his babies, so I bid with a green pin. Every time somebody bid, green pin, and I got Beach, Barron Jr., and he's 26. And he didn't hit solid gold because he never had to really rescue me, but he's definitely true blue. Definitely true blue. He just goes wherever I want to go. One of the first times I rode him at a gather, he was really green. And I was riding with a guy, and the guy wanted to go one way, and I wanted to go another way, and the guy goes, "Will your horse ride by itself?" And I said, "We'll find out real soon, if you let me." He left me. We're riding up the hill, and pretty soon Beach just goes, "Where'd that guy go?" But he was fine with us being alone, because a lot of horses will not ride by themselves.
Because you're used to being in group.
Yeah, and they will not let you split. But yeah, Beach like, whatever, let's go.
What size are the groupings of horses?
Or the what?
Groupings of horses, I don't know.
Bands.
All kinds. Like Smoke he only ever wanted one mare, and so then he usually have a baby. And then there's some bands that have a satellite stallion with them, and they'll have, every
6 or 8.
yeah. So,
So between 2 and 8, roughly.
yeah,
And then you'll have 2 bands that kind of coexist in the same
yeah.
area. And they'll have their little, 2 stallions that just. But it's not like those. I mean, I guess there's a few times, but I don't think I've ever really witnessed a real Kodak moment of 2 stallions
Oh,
fighting. Not up on a little, but it's just kind of like, hey, get on your side of the street. Okay, fine. So it's, they're great to photograph, but there
Yeah.
really aren't those Hollywood of 2 stallions rearing up and getting into a real knockdown drag out. You just don't see it with horses up there.
I did see Wyoming once. He was brought from Wyoming. We call him Wyoming. He's a big pain. And he had a satellite stallion, a bay, Geronimo. And one time they got into it. And it was funny, is there were 3 people who were taking pictures. And so the mouth was like, 1, 2, 3. So it was really funny, and they all came out in big pictures. Everybody's, "Oh, I got this, I blew it up," and you could just see the progression. But yeah, you don't see it very often.
So are you monitoring where they are on a weekly basis, or is that kind of?
Well, the cameras he was telling me about by
Just
the
from-
tanks, the gal that hikes and does the darting, she monitors those cameras now. And there's quite a few of them up there. So she knows where the horses are, like at every time of the year. She can tell you where they're at. So, and she hikes to those and gets those pictures. And she said she goes through like 800 pictures sometimes. Oh.
Pulls the little SD cards out,
Yeah.
plugs another one in, and takes
Yeah.
it home, and plugs them into her computer and goes through them all. They're all time stamped, so you know what day
Yeah.
and what
That's
time.
nice, that's good.
But yeah, we pretty much know what's going on out there.
So
And
if you're an interested person who will have anything out for a long, long, long time, time to leave Junction to, it used to be, this was when Marty would say, "Well, make sure you're on the road by 6 o'clock."
Well, it's what, an hour or half hour from Junction to the back? And then it's almost
It's at least an
an
hour.
hour and a half, depends on how you drive,
Yeah,
to get in to what I call camp.
yeah.
The
And-
roads are usually so washboarded and rutted that
It goes,
you go about 20 miles an hour, anything faster than that, you better have an appointment with your chiropractor.
Yeah. And your shocks or whatever you
Oh, yeah.
said went bad.
Yeah, you're gonna have to take your vehicle to your mechanic for new shocks and who knows what else.
Now, we have a lot of fun up there, and we enjoy it, and Gerald made us a nice camp. The trailers are going bad, so I think we're gonna haul some of them out, but, we still have the FOM trailer, and I have my trailer up there, but it's a nice campground. We got a big awning thing with all these picnic tables, and it's really a nice little area, I think. So, and a
Nice.
bathroom.
Yep, there's a bathroom at the cabins, there's a bathroom at the campgrounds, there's a big plaque at the campground, kind of
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about the Little Book Cliffs, and then, is it the entrance, where's the plaque for Wild Horse?
It's at this, well, it's at this old entrance here
Okay,
in Indian Park. There's a Wild Horse Annie plaque, and, there's another one there too. I forgot what it was. We've actually got people have passed away and donated money, and so, there's a plaque over here in Soda, and then there's a plaque out here at the Aspen Tank. But anyway, yeah, and then I've got another plaque down in, actually, Spring Creek Canyon. And, but I quit doing that. It's like I'm gonna have plaques all over that range.
but the range was one of Wild Horse Annie's, I think she had her three favorite ranges in Little Book Cliffs. She had her 3 crown jewels, and Little Book Cliffs was one of her crown jewels.
Yeah.
I think the Priors was the other one, and drawing a blank, but
Where are the Priors?
northern Wyoming, I think. Anyhow,
Yeah.
but we are known as one of Wild Horse Annie's crown jewels.
So if I look at your map.
And I've got
Actually,
a
it's
little,
a nice map. This
you
is
wanna come
beautiful.
up here? I've got a little video, I don't have anything to project with, but if you, this, I was talking about how friendly the horses are. This is Traveler and his son.
They're actually in Brumby Land.
Yep, they moved over to Brumby Land. That's my truck over there. I got the truck up. Okay, it should be on now. See. Now that's 2x zoom, so I'm not as close as it looks on the, but I'm still pretty close.
He's looking at it. Look cooler in here.
There's some of them that are really friendly. And if I have my dog, I have to be really careful because they come after my dog. Yeah, and they get a little too close.
They'll go after cats too.
I don't know, I've not ever had a cat.
Mountain lion. The adults might.
I bet they do, because they really want to come after my dog. So you used to hang out with Marty?
Right after she retired from teaching.
Oh.
So I went up that way. So I'd have guests from Australia coming down, and the best thing to do is take them up.
Yeah.
And of course, it was like, it's so good. Where is I-70?
Okay, here's I-70. And then this is Cameo, who come in. And,
But is that on the way up, because you were eventually going to.
Just- these, you gotta go through the back. They,
And then there's,
this is South Shell Ridge, and you'll see that. And so you can go around behind it, or you can go in front of it. But
this road is better condition.
but it's dead cell service. You won't get cell service. So,
It's easier on your vehicle and your back and your teeth. I mean, there's sections of this that's just so washable. It's just a problem.
But I like this way in, I just do, I always have,
I tend to come this way in, because I always want to go to North Soda.
yeah.
And then if I have time, then I'll go in Round Mountain in this area. And then I usually end up taking the other road back.
You have to buy a new truck. I just have a two-wheel drive,
Oh,
one ton.
well, I bet you could get in as long as it's not raining. If it's raining,
Well, I can flip a switch and it does both rear tires.
oh, does it? Oh.
Uh,
No, I always have four-wheel drive and chains,
I
I got chains.
but, cause we've had some hairy things trying to get out. No, there's a lot of country, but boy, these are big canyons.
So Lane Gulch is Grumpy Land, right?
Yeah.
2,369. So I guess
This-
if you add
this
all
is-
those numbers up, that would be our new.
Now, this is Brumbyland, well, but it's not official yet. The
Right.
BLM hasn't done it. But this here is Brumbyland. This is our newest addition. Round Mountain here was the first one. Besides some private property, there was some private property here, which has a good spring on it at the cabin. And then Indian Park, there was private property there that they acquired. And it actually has a pond at the bottom of it that we're gonna dig out. In fact, there's 6 ponds that they're supposed to give me an estimate on. So, 38,000, sweet,
So what's 36,000?
yeah.
So,
No, it's kinda neat up there, it's just tough country. There's my tank, see? The lost Judy. But anyway, in fact, I think this is that other pond that I'm gonna dig out. And this one's supposed to be down here, that's Buffalo Wallow. That's why I was telling him when he gave me this map, I'm like, your springs and stuff are wrong. But anyway, it's a good thing we have these springs because that's what
Source of water, isn't it?
thing, yeah. So, and these along here, mine and Buffalo Wallow's down here, these are good springs. When everything else goes dry, these two, yeah. And now we have that water catchment out here that, it's like about right where that one is, and then it's got 2